Yeah. Today we're making a classic recipe, and outside of the noodles, everything is created completely from scratch. This easy, guaranteed, homemade delicious sauce is going to be a family favorite. And don't underestimate these Say Uncle meatballs, because one taste will certainly have you forget that you were looking for Waldo. Let's go. Let's get started with making our potion, aka homemade spaghetti sauce. You want to start out with a good, decent sized pot. You're going to be adding a ton of ingredients into the cookware, and what you don't want to happen is for things to start to overflow while you're going through all your ingredients. Add a little olive oil, and then you're gonna saute those onions for just a little bit. You're gonna saute your onions until they're translucent, but we're gonna take it one step further, and we're actually gonna keep going until they begin to caramelize a little bit. This process is gonna take roughly about 4 to 6 minutes, and you're gonna know you're doing a good job once you start to see that brown on the bottom of your pan, and you'll also see it around your onions. Next, add in your garlic, and you're gonna push it around a little bit and allow that to become fragrant and friendly with those onions. At this point, it really is a free-for-all. You're basically adding in the rest of your ingredients outside of 1 or 2 back to back here. One thing I like to do before adding everything in is if I have a big chunk of tomato paste, I add that in there and then I break it up a little bit. I don't want it stuck in that chunk form as I'm trying to add the rest of my ingredients in. From here, in no particular order, add the rest of your ingredients in, from your tomatoes all the way down to the seasonings. One quick tip, I try to measure out all of my seasonings and add them into a bowl or a small plate prior to adding everything else in. This helps because my sauce won't be cooking on its own while I'm trying to measure out the rest of my ingredients and then possibly burn. Top this whole thing off with your bay leaf, push it to the bottom, then give everything a good stir. You want everyone well acquainted with each other, so stir everything up really good. At this point, reduce your heat down to a simmer and partially cover the pot up with the lid. But don't go nowhere, stay close, because what you want to do is stir this around every 3 to 5 minutes. This will prevent anything sticking to the bottom and then you having a burnt sauce. You can cook this for about 1 hour or even up to 3 hours. But keep in mind, the longer you cook, the deeper your flavors are going to be. Another tip is, if I need this today, as in the day that I'm making it, then I go for a longer cook time. But if I need this, say tomorrow or later in the week, where I'm gonna be able to allow it to sit overnight, I go for the shorter cook time. Allowing the spaghetti sauce to sit overnight is going to have those flavors have like a rave party. That's gonna give you that deep, rich, and powerful flavor that you're looking for. When your timer's up, add in your butter and stir that around, allowing it to melt and create some more of that creaminess. Also, top it off with a little basil and you're in heaven. Now, what typically helps me when waiting on my sauce is to chef up those meatballs at the same damn time. Similar to the sauce, you do not have to be a boss in the kitchen to whip these things up. But if you're trying to feel like a boss, when you're done these recipes, trust me, you'll be able to flex a little bit, for sure. Let's start by bringing our vegetable stock to a boil. When that's ready, take your TVP and add it into the same pot. Give it a stir in order to mix everything around, then let that rest until the liquid is completely soaked up. Now for this next part, you can use a hand mixer in a bowl, you can use a stand mixer. Honestly, you can do it by hand, but personally, I like to go the processor route. I use the processor because it not only chops everything down to make it like smaller, but also it mixes everything up at the same time. And all I'm doing is hitting the button. Begin by adding all of your ingredients either into the bowl, or if you use the food processor, add it into there. Only difference is if you're using a food processor, start out with something larger like the onions. And then add your smaller ingredients, and then I usually add something on top that's larger as well. And pretty much right here, you're just gonna bring everything together. So whether you're using a bowl and a mixer or the food processor method, pretty much just mix everything together. If going the food processor route, you may need to stop, go in there with a spoon just to get some of that mixture at the bottom onto the top. So this way everything gets incorporated evenly. Now you're done. Pretty much just form the meatballs and get them onto that baking tray. From here, get that into the oven or skillet if you went that route, or air fryer. Honestly, these things could be cooked anywhere. All right, let's talk about some of the most frequently asked questions that we get. This recipe is easy for 2 reasons. One, you're gonna make this all in one pot, and you don't have to move it over to like a blender because you were using whole tomatoes and you have to smooth it out. Also, most of your effort is really just stirring. Other than that, you're not doing nothing special. Well, first of all, let me just say, this is not the spaghetti sauce you use if a skunk hits you with that love funk. This stuff is too good for that, but pretty much use it on everything else. I mean, you can do it on pizza, you can use it for your breadsticks to dip that stuff in. You know, wherever your heart desires spaghetti sauce, I guess. Well, if we're talking about a homemade sauce like this one, the key is to either let it sit overnight or cook it for the full 3 hours. This stuff is like wine, you know? It takes time. Textured vegetable protein. It's created from soybeans and honestly does a really good job mimicking a meat-like crumble or used with other ingredients to give that meat-like texture. You could with mushrooms, but I haven't tried it. What? Why? Cause I don't like mushrooms. Duh. All right, family. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. When you make this, don't forget to tag us on Instagram. We love showing your stuff off. All right, you guys are the best. As always, believe in good. Peace.